Good afternoon. Hello, everyone. I am Mona Lisa. I'm architect and institutional manager here, ZIGURAT. I'm very happy to present this masterclass today with Carlos Solana. Welcome, everyone. The name of the masterclass is Crash Course Innovating the Osterwalder Way. So thank you, Carlos, for being here today with
Thank you.
us. Thank you. You're welcome. So Carlos, he works with innovation at MediaPro, and he's based here in Barcelona. So Carlos, thank you again, and the stage is all yours.
Thank you so much, and thanks to you all for being here. I hope you enjoy the session today, and yes, we have this, I don't know, it's going to be like 40, 50 minutes presentation, and then if you have any kind of question, we can go for it. So there we go. Well, first of all, what this course is about, we are going to talk about some introductory concepts. It's a very, very short session, so we are going to cover so many things that I hope that it's not too intense, but yeah, my intention today is that you can understand this entrepreneurial process that we follow when we follow the Osterwalder way of innovating, how you can identify, develop, and launch new ideas when it comes to business. So this is not related with some kind of only creative or artistic ideation. It's about being able to offer a solution to a problem, usually from the entrepreneurial point of view. So we are going to deal with business models and how you make a profit from doing something to cover a need. And we are going to do it following a methodology. That is the way that you can go in a systematic way n times. Finally, you can understand that you don't need to be an entrepreneur to be this way. You can be entrepreneur even being in a corporation, and you can not be an entrepreneur being in a startup. So it depends on your mindset and not on the place that you are. Okay, so there we go. First of all, the top 10 startup mistakes. And this is so relevant because, as you can see, number one is building something that nobody wants. This methodology is very focused on building something that people need, building something that covers a real need from real people. And because of that, after following this course, you should not fall into this first top 10 startup mistake. So that's the first thing. You have to build something that people want, people need, people use, people understand. And the way we do that is building some ideas that we create from our observation of reality, observation of users, consumers, clients that are out there with some pains that we could solve, with some needs that we could cover. And that way we are able to create value. And create value means not only create value and giving away that value, create value means also monetizing that value and taking a price for that value we deliver and not giving away that value. There are many startups and many projects that give away the value, and that's not our intention. We want to monetize that value. Okay. That way, if you are able to build something that creates value and monetizes value, you will get some results. And with those results, you will be able to save the good things that you have built and to improve the bad things or the improvable things that you have observed. And that way you restart the process. You go again to reformulate your ideas and to restart the game with new ideas that bring more value, that get better results, but with areas to improve, and restart and restart and restart. What you can see here is an example, bicycles, many bicycles. Even you could think that these are all kind of bicycles that one could imagine for different kind of people, personas, or whatever. You can see top left battery ones for kids, for racing, for mountain, whatever. And this is an approach, okay? And if I ask you, is there any kind of bicycle that you can imagine that is not here? Maybe you could find someone. But if we go to the next one, is this kind of new mindset what we are seeking in this approach that we are working today? Is certification is an example. You could focus on the way you provide that value, and you think that you are not manufacturing bicycles, but you are providing people with something that covers the need that they have to commute, for example. No, this is the reason that we have to observe reality with a different mindset, with the ability to be able to capture those needs that people have, and to be able to find something new that makes sense and that improves the present solutions that are out there. I don't know if you know the Ikigai concept. It's a Japanese concept that has to do, it's in the top right. And it means that if you are able to reach your Ikigai, you are doing something that you love. At the same time, you are doing something that you are capable of doing. You are good at that. And at the same time, you are being paid for doing that. If you are able to do these things at the same time, you have reached your Ikigai. That's the theory for people. And I think that this model is like an Ikigai for a startup, for a company too. You have to look for three things at the same time with your proposal. First of all, you have to find something that is desirable, is focused on users and society, and is something that they desire, they want, they need that thing that you are offering. Second, you have to do something that is feasible. You have to be able to build it. You have to be able to deliver that thing that you are offering, and it has to work. Okay, that's the second thing. And the third thing of this startup Ikigai has to do with profitability, because as we were saying before, we need to monetize and we need to cover the cost to deliver our service or our product, and that cost should be lower than the income that we receive. So we have to think on the business model, income, cost, etc., and it should make sense. Okay. So the process that we are going to follow goes for this kind of mess. We start with this kind of research, going back and forward all the time, getting some ideas out there, being able to draw the landscape that we have in front of us, and being able to have this differential vision of what's happening out there is so relevant, because being able to identify something that makes sense to solve that need, that you are the first to understand that this makes sense, is a big opportunity. So you have to be able to conceptualize something that summarizes somehow that mess that we see, and comes up with a very simple, very understandable proposition that you can test at the end of the process. No? So we are going to follow some steps to cover this methodology, this process. And there are like 5 steps. The first step has to do with empathize. We will see in detail now. With empathizing with the consumer, with the customers. Second, define the problem, and this is so relevant. We will see. If I have to choose only one, I would say that define the problem is the more relevant one of all. And look, I'm not saying building the solution. I mean, being able to identify the problem and defining it is the most relevant thing. Then when you have a real clear vision of what's the problem, when you choose the problem that you want to choose, you go for ideating the solution. And when you ideate that solution, and there are many possible solutions, you have to prototype it to test it. So there are these 5 steps, and we will cover them. There is an initial phase that covers like the 3 first steps that has to do with learning, and the second phase that has to do with validating those learnings that you have. Okay. More details, more aspects related with this methodology. I don't know if you have read about Tom Kelly, the 10 phases of innovation, but there are like three groups of roles that when you are creating a team of people to solve these kind of problems and come up with a proposal that creates value, there are three kind of roles. The first kind of roles, and there are more details that we can cover today, but are the learning roles. Are those people that are observing what's happening out there. I would say that they are the ones that are able to define what's the problem that you have to solve. They are able to conceptualize what's happening, what gains, what pains are out there that you should um, deliver a solution to. The second one has to do with organizing everything, because there must be some kind of methodology, order. You have to follow a process. You have to do this, you have to do that. And these kind of people are the organizing roles. And finally, there are some people that are very, very good building the, I would say that in this methodology, it would be building the prototype, testing it, being able to observe what's happening in combination with the first ones also. So these kind of roles are finally the kind of people that you need to work with this methodology. And it would be very bad that all the team is formed by people that are organizing roles. It would be a problem if all the team is formed by people who wants to build because they don't know what to build. And it's very bad that everybody is trying to learn but not doing any more things. No. And this methodology, as you can see, there are, and these are some of the innovation methods, but is focused on the blue one, the design and thinking, and also with the lean startup methodology. And yeah, you will see. One very relevant thing that I want also, one aspect that I want to highlight. Design thinking is about falling in love with the problem, not the solution. And it's so typical that when you are talking to an entrepreneur, it's very, very focused on the solution. And you have to fall in love with the problem, because the problem is, at the end of the day, something that you choose to solve. And there is, let's imagine that you are choosing a very, very very poor problem. You will come up with a great solution to a poor problem, and there will be a poor startup. So choosing a very good problem with a lot of potential, at the end of the day, is going to come to a better scenario of business of startup that if you don't have this mindset focus on the problem. Okay, there are some aspects that are very relevant. I would highlight these four multidisciplinary teams that we were saying before. Iterative, we have to iterate to improve and improve and improve, as we were saying in the beginning. User-centric, and user-centric somehow is saying problem-centered. Okay, we want to focus on the problem, on the user, on their needs, and then you have to prototype it, because you have to test it. You have to be based on data that you observe. You don't have to have intuitions and things like that. You have to test it and to be very empiric. Another thing is very typical. There are these kind of people, no? People that are I-shaped, that are experts in one thing. There are people that are generalists, that know a bit of everything, but they are not experts in anything. And the T-shaped people are the ones that are perfect for this kind of approaches to ideation and discovery of new ideas. Is a T-shaped. So they are good generalists, but at the same time, each member of the team are very, very good experts at one thing. When you combine all of them, you have a group of T-shaped people that are covering, like experts, many aspects, but at the same time have a common understanding from a generalist point of view. So that's also another relevant thing. Four very basic ideas. You have to think big. You have to seek something that could change the world. Okay, but you have to start very small, because you are starting a small business, so you have to start small. You have to fail very quickly, and you have to fail. You are going to fail. Being correct is not the mentality that you have to have for this methodology. You have to accept that you are going to fail, and you have to improve. You have to correct what was wrong. It's not a problem. You will come up with a new idea. You will restart this circle that we were talking before. And once you find that you have something that fits and that covers the need, you have to scale fast. So these are the five steps that we will follow. And first of all, we start with empathize. And the first thing is, if we are user-centric, we have to define who are we observing and what are we observing. And the first thing is users. We have to observe users, the users of the product or the services that at the moment there are a solution in them. There are some solutions in the market that are covering those needs, and maybe we want to come up with a new idea, with a new solution. But first of all, we have to understand who are those users, to whom we are addressing our new approach. Then we have to differentiate the users and the buyers. Let's imagine the diapers, for example. The parents of a baby are the buyers. The baby is the user, but you can address a value proposal to a baby. You have to address the buyers, but you have to take into account the user in this case. And it's a very basic example, but you can understand that. And also, if you are building something that makes sense, you have to take into account the stakeholders in all the value chain. Maybe you have an excellent product, but you don't take into account the distributors, for example, of the retailers. You are not taking into account the public sector, because from a regulatory point of view, there is something that you have to take into account. You don't consider that, and it's a fail. So you have to also to observe the stakeholders in the full value chain. And for doing this kind of observation, you have to cover some different points. That you have to do a research plan. You have to understand the trends that are out there. You have to understand what competitors you have at the moment, what are they doing. If you are able to understand what are they doing for the future, you have to benchmark, you have to do some interviews. Second, you have to define the problem, and define the problem is something that as I was saying before, is so relevant. You have to find a problem that is worth solving, because if you choose a bad problem, you will have a bad business, no? So you have to take into account that the business volume is interesting. So if maybe that you can find some niche that is smaller than the whole market, but always take into account that the business volume has to be enough for you to create a startup or a business. Second, the frequency, the higher frequency, the better. The urgency, if you are covering something that is very relevant for your target, you will be dealing with something that matters. Maybe what you are communicating to them is going to be something that they want to hear, they want to listen. There is so much competition. Everybody's trying to get their messages to the final consumers, and maybe all of us are consumers, and you know how many messages are we receiving every day, and how difficult it is to reach the final consumer. And then unsatisfaction. If you are offering something and there is not present alternative, maybe you have more opportunities. You are the one that is choosing the problem. So this is so powerful. The way you define the problem is the first step to success. And you have to define the persona, the buyer persona. You have to define, and you have to put a picture, you have to put a name, you have to describe the motivation, the gains and pains that this persona has for you, related with the needs and the problem that you are addressing. And you have to take this seriously. Sometimes people say, okay, I put the picture here and then I forget. No, it's very relevant, because then you need to have a persona always in mind, because you have to have always in mind the problem. You are focusing on you are user-centric, you have to solve a problem, and you don't have to forget that problem. So this persona helps you in having this focus. And then it's a way to inspire the team. You always stay focused on someone needs, and you see her face. Okay, so it's so relevant. People usually forget the problem and start focusing on the solution very, very soon. Having this persona always in mind is a good way to keep your attention always in the problem. Some additional tools this day in the life to understand what they feel, how they live, at what time are they getting up, what timetable are they having every day, are they using the train, the bus, are they going to the university, are they going to an office, are they teleworking, what are they doing, how are they behaving every day, because that has a lot to do with the way you have to offer and to build your value proposal for them. And it's so different if you're approaching one type of persona or another. Maybe you can have at the same time 3 personas and you have a different strategy and a different value proposal for all of them, for each of them. Okay. Then the customer journey map. This is not a day in a life, that is more general. A customer journey map has to do with the interaction of this persona with the product or the service that you are putting in her hands or in his hands. Okay, so you have to gain this empathy with the persona, following the steps that this person follows when he or she is using the product or the service. That way, you are going to reach a deep understanding of the problems, the gains, and the pains that this persona is experiencing. The customer journey map, finally, is representing what we call the touch points. These touch points are the very relevant moments that represent a moment of contact with the service or the product. And there are always 3 big moments: before the use, during the use, and after the use. And organizing your analysis and your approach with these three big moments, you have something to start your journey. Okay. When you have done this, you have the customer segment part done. Okay, you have a deep understanding of the gains, the pains, and the needs, the functional, emotional, and social needs that the person has. Later it will come the value proposition, but now we are still in the defining the problem. Okay. Sorry. The problem statement is this: at the end of the day, you have to be able to create a very simple sentence like this. No, this persona needs a new way of doing something because you introduce the pains and gains here, and you have to be able to deliver this simple, direct, sharp problem statement, because everybody in the team has to have that in mind. It could not be a 10 pages problem statement. It has to be very simple, very direct. Is what we were saying. You have to be very focused. So you need this problem statement as something that aligns all the work in the group. All the team members have to have the same problem statement in mind when ideating later, when building the prototype, when testing, when rebuilding, when re-ideating everything, when starting this cycle later. An example, an app for getting taxis, my taxi. If you formulate that sentence, taxi passengers need a new way to find and pay taxi rides because they don't always find one. And if they plan the taxi ride, they need to make a phone call, which is disturbing and beyond that, cash must be carried just in case. Okay, this is integrating the insights in the left and the goals and wishes, but you also could formulate that problem statement from the taxi driver's point of view. As you can see, there are so many options, so many ways to understand reality, and that's your work. You have to be able to formulate the different personas that make sense for your value proposal. Sometimes it is not so simple, and it's not only the customer, but also the provider, the vendors that you are creating, if you are, for example, creating a marketplace like this. We come to the third step, that is ideating. You have we have understood who we are addressing, who we are trying to solve a kind of problem or need. Then we have defined the problem, and after understanding the problem that we want to solve, starts the creative part, ideating a solution. This first step in ideating the solution is framing the problem. Framing the problem about has to do with being able to understand that there is not only one solution. There are going to be many potential solutions. You have to ideate many of them. You have to be able to put them, I don't know, 100 of them, and then you have to be able to prioritize. We will follow then an idea generation process. We are so used to use our left side of the brain, the rational part, and in this step, the point is improving your use of the right part of your brain. Okay, you have to be creative. Every one of us is creative. Okay, there are some techniques. Brainstorming is a technique that I'm sure that all of you know, but there are other kind of techniques for creativity and for generating ideas. Analogies and Scamper are some of these techniques. We don't have the time today to get into details, but idea generation comes with some of these techniques. And once you have, let's say, I don't know, 20, 30 ideas, you have to evaluate these ideas depending on some criteria. I don't know, the budget, the difficulty, the simplicity, the time to market, whatever. You have to score them, and the better wins. So you have to do this numeric and analytical approach so that you don't have this only intuition to select the final idea, but you take into account different things that are relevant for you as a company. I don't know, for example, sustainability. You are very focused on sustainability, and the sustainability criteria is basic for you. So you put that in number one, and the weight of that criteria is very high. Depends on your values, on the mission and vision of your company. Okay, then so this third step, that is ideating, leads us to a complete picture of, we have the customer segment and we have the value proposition with our solution. Okay, sorry. So we review. First, we go for the problem. We select the customer segment. Then we identify the customer jobs, the needs that we have to solve. Then we identify the customer pains. Then we identify the customer gains. And when we prioritize what kind of pains and gains we want to address as a priority for us. Second, we have to go with the solution. So we list the different products and services that we want to address for solving those needs and those pains and gains. We align the pain relievers to solve the pains, and we align the gain creators to address the gains. And then again, we rank those ideas, as we were saying before, taking into account different criteria. And then we come with the fourth step. The fourth step has to do with prototyping. You have to make it real. You have an idea, but if you want to test it, you have to build it, because you have to show it to a consumer to get real impressions and real reactions of these consumers, these clients, about your product or your service. So we have to create this functional, very basic version of the solution to test the assumptions that you have made. And in the process, you are going to be learning and improving the value proposal that you are doing. And some example of prototypes you can see here. Maybe you have sometimes worked with digital mockups. Maybe you have experienced the landing pages. They are so common, but sometimes it's a mockup, sometimes it's a paper prototype, so that you can show this to a person and you can get a real reaction from that person about the product that you are offering. What are you doing when you are testing? What you are doing when you are testing is is validating both parts of this value proposition canvas. On the right, as we are saying, are you really sure that people are feeling like you are describing? Is this happening? These needs, these gains and pains are really like you are saying? Uh, Maybe you are saying that they are unsatisfied with a solution that is in the market now, but this is not the case, and they are so happy and they are not going to change anything. They don't want to change their solution. On the other side, you are proposing new ideas to solve these problems. And are you sure that this solution is wanted? Is really useful? Maybe is a good solution, but it's not easy to use. The user experience is not well worked, so you have to improve that. You are testing all these different details. It's not I would say that it's not a testing of the whole concept, of the whole product. That's the reason that we are creating prototypes, very basic prototypes, because we are trying to test different aspects of the product or the service, not all of them at the same time. And maybe you know this, the business model canvas. The business model canvas is like the translation of this value proposal to this framework, no? This framework is focused on these three parts. The top right is focused on desirability and has to do with, you remember the startup ikigai? It has to be something that the customers and the society needs and wants. And the top left has to do with feasibility. You have to build it. It has to work. You have to be able to deliver that service or that product. And finally, the profitability. When you take into account the cost and the revenues, you have to build something that is sustainable from an economic point of view. You have to have higher revenue streams that cost, because if this is not happening, maybe the investors one day, it's okay that in the beginning you are not having profits, but in the long term you should be profitable, and you have to design a business model that makes profits. We are testing. If we are testing, we are investing time and resources to get information and knowledge about what's happening. Is it a good value proposal? Is it usable? Is the user experience okay? Are we addressing a real need? All those questions are time consuming, are resources consuming, and if you want to have 100% certainty of the success of the project, you are going to invest so much money that you are not going to be profitable ever. So you have to choose what's the point in this process where you stop, when you stop investing and you accept that uncertainty and you go to market with a reasonable uncertainty and with a reasonable amount of investment to test the product. Okay, so there's no way to substitute going to market. At the end of the day, there is one moment that you have to stop testing and you have to start going to market. And at the end of the day, this test step has to do with this validation cycle. No, you build something, you launch it, you measure. Then with the measure that you do, you learn something. Sometimes to rebuild the same value proposal, but sometimes to pivot, because you understand, for example, that, I don't know, the persona that you were defining in the first moment makes no sense because they don't want to change their solution, or it's very difficult to reach them, or the channels are so expensive to build, or whatever. And maybe you have to rebuild your value proposal. Again, we go back to these 4 ideas: think big, start small, fail quickly, and scale fast. And that's it.
Oh my God, I think that I have, at least at me, this is very clear, and I think that I have a lot of things to learn. Can we repeat the masterclass, maybe? I swear
Sorry,
for God.
because there were so many things, and I wanted to
No.
follow all the steps, but yes, it's a bit intense. Yes, yes.
And the idea, I think that we can use this methodology to products, to create a business, and
Yeah.
for everything. I think it's very clear for me. Um, I think that it's all. We don't have questions here in the chat, so I hope you have enjoyed this great masterclass. Thank you, Carlos.
Thank
I
you.
hope you have enjoyed it also, and we keep in touch.
See you.
Bye
Bye
bye. Thank
bye.
you,
See
everyone. Thank
you.
you.